Hey guys, I thought since chapter 3 was about reading levels, reading ability, and different assessments, I could show y'all a couple of assessments that I have done. Um, the first one I'm going to talk about was an emergent literacy test. And this was done on a student in kindergarten who is 5 years old. The tests cover phonemic awareness, concepts about print and letter knowledge. So I use the Eckwall-Schenker reading inventories assessment. There are many that you can use, but I did like this one. So each test has a crib sheet which explains the directions of the assessments. So here is the first crib sheet for test 1 with the emergent literacy test. And again, this kid was in kindergarten. So the purpose of this assessment to determine whether a student can successfully complete 5 different phonemic awareness tasks, to determine whether a student has knowledge of concepts learned in the early stages of reading, such as directionality or knowing what a letter, word, and sentence are, and to determine whether the student can associate the letter symbols with letter names using auditory and visual stimulus. So it just kind of breaks it down on how to give this assessment. And I did record this so that I could go back and make sure I had all the information needed. So for the first part, you're going to give the student these test sheets. This is an uppercase, so you give this to the student. You also give this page to the student. This is the lowercase letters. You give this page to the student as well, and it says test sheet up at the top, so that's how it can help you to remember to give it to the student. And then here are the lowercase using the visual stimulus. And then the scoring sheets are what the person who's giving the assessment needs to use. So it gives the directions. You place 1C, the uppercase letter knowledge, using the auditory stimulus. You place that sheet in front of the student and you say point to the letter E, the letter N, and continue for each letter, and you circle the incorrect responses. So the student will have a different sheet in front of them. They'll have, let me show you again. This is a sheet that they'll have in front of them. So whenever you say point to the letter E, they should be able to point right here. But if they cannot, then you circle that on your test. So it seems a little complicated, but yeah, you would circle right there if they missed it. But once you read through it, it really is easier to understand. And I marked that they got all correct, just to make sure I remembered. This is a scoring sheet for the lowercase letter knowledge. And this is for the visual stimulus. So you give them their test sheet and you say, now you say the letters as I point to them. So you'll point to each letter and they should be able to say E, N, I, P, and you circle the ones that are incorrect. So here's the same test. Okay, so next was the rhyme production. So it gives you the directions, and you would say to the student, words that rhyme sound the same at the end. Here are some words that rhyme. Some are not real words. Listen, fit, dit, writ, sit, kit. Now I will say 2 words, and you say one that rhymes. It doesn't have to be a real word. It can be a silly one. Listen, rake, take, and the student should say fake or make, just as long as it's a rhyming word. And so then you say, okay, good, let's try again. So then you'll come down here and say C, B, and they should say me or T, any word that rhymes. If they get it correct, give them a plus. If they miss it, give them a minus or negative. And then at the end, you put the total score. If the student is struggling, you go on to the next test, this one, but as you can tell, I did not have to give him this one because my student got them all correct. Okay, and then this is the next test. It's sound recognition. So you say, we're going to listen for sounds at the beginning of words. The first sound in sit is S. The word sit starts with S. You tell me the beginning sound of sit, and they should say S. So if they can do this, you go on and give them the words, and they should be able to tell you the initial sound. So you give a positive or negative just like the other one, and you put their total score here at the bottom. Okay, next, this one is probably the toughest for the students, and it's for phoneme blending. So you say, I have a robot friend. He can say words in a funny way. When he says bad, he says b-a-d. When he says fan, he says f-n. So now I'm going to say words like a robot, and you tell me what the words really are. Okay? Cat. And the student should say cat. And then you have them do it down here again. So you're going to give a plus or a minus depending on if they got them right or wrong. And then next, they are going to be the robot. So you will just say sit, and they should be able to say it in the robot voice, but this can be hard for them. My student did get all of them right. Okay, and the next is the concepts about print. So this is a test sheet that you'll give the student over here. And then this is the scoring sheet for the person giving the assessment. So you'll give them that paper, and then you're going to ask them these questions. So use your finger to point and show me the top of the page. And the student should be able to show you the top. Show me the bottom of the page. They should show you the bottom. And then you're going to circle the area above the line and show me where there's a letter by itself. So we'll look back here. Okay, right in this area, you're going to have them point to the letter by itself, the word, and the sentence. And they should be able to point to which is which. And then you're going to mark if they got it correct. And then you're going to go to the bottom of the page, and you're going to have them show you where they would start reading. So we're looking right here, and they should say right here is where they would start to read. And then you continue to ask them questions about reading the paragraph, and then ask if they can say any of the words on the page. So this is the assessment that I did. My student did get all of them correct. He was able to get perfect scores on all of them. And again, he was a 5-year-old student. This test took me about 20 minutes, and we did it all in one sitting. After I was finished, I was able to go home and make a test summary sheet, as well as write my general observations, a summary, and recommendations that I had for the student, and just ways that I thought he could strengthen his literacy skills. Even though he's already doing pretty well, there's always ways to keep improving. And the next test I'm going to show you was with a graded word list and different reading assessments to determine the independent, instructional, and frustration reading levels. The next student who I assessed is a 4th grader and is 10 years old. And I gave him a graded word list, which helped me to determine just a quick independent, instructional, and frustration level. So you go to the word list. It looks like this, and it tells the different levels. And you have the students read the words. And this is your scoring sheet. So you have them read the first list, and if they get it right, you put a plus, and if they get it wrong, you put a minus. You can see right here, he said think instead of thank for this one. And once they miss one error, it is their independent reading level. If they miss 2 errors, it's their instructional, and 3 or more errors is their frustration level. So we reached the frustration level on grade 5. So based on the graded word list, I found that my student's independent reading level is grade 3, his instructional reading level is grade 4, and frustration reading level is grade 5. So from there, I was going to go to the reading passages, and there's oral and silent independent reading. So I started with the grade level 3 test, and I also recorded this just to make sure I could go back and have all the information needed. So you have the student read this out loud. You have them read their passage, and then you have the scoring sheet. So if there's any word errors, you mark those and you write them down. And then you're going to ask them questions and put a check if they get it right, and if they don't, then you put an X. So the student did get all these correct with no word errors. This is a chart, so no questions missed, no word errors. You circle this, that is their independent reading level, and you go to the next level. So this one is a silent test. You have them read this silently to themselves. And then here is your scoring sheet. You time them to see how long it takes them to read. And you do the same thing. You are going to ask them questions about it, but you do take up the passage. So they read it silently because you're trying to see how much they can remember. So then you ask them questions about it. And this again will give you their reading level. For the silent reading, this was his instructional level because he had 1, 2, 3 errors for the questions. So 2 to 4 errors would be the instructional. So based on this, you can determine if you need to take it back a grade level or if you can continue increasing the level of the reading passages. And then if they have 5 or more questions missed, you know it's their frustration level, so you do not want to go any further than this. But this wasn't students' instructional level for their silent reading. And you can see from our oral reading that was his independent level, so we can keep going on and to see if we can get his instructional and frustration level. So I hope that this helps. This was the Eckwall-Schenker Reading Inventories Assessment. It definitely helped me learn how to assess some students and get a feel for it. My first few times definitely were not perfect, but it did get me out there and I learned a lot from it. And again, you can make a test summary sheet after this to show to administrators or the principal just to see where your students stand and what they're needing to work on. Yeah, and that's it. I hope that y'all learned a little bit, and I'm excited to see what y'all came up with for chapter 3. Bye!